LUNR ripped, RKLB caught a real bid, ASTS got lit up too. And that tells you this is not just random action in a few names. You're watching the entire space trade get repriced in real time. For years, space was a story trade. Big vision, big promises. Maybe big upside someday, but now the question is way more serious. If SpaceX is really heading toward a $2 trillion valuation and a possible monster IPO as soon as June, are the public names in this space still cheap? Or is the whole sector about to get revalued higher? That's the real setup here. This is no longer just about rockets, satellites, or moon headlines. You're looking at a full chain launch, satellite manufacturing, communications, defense demand, AI infrastructure, and all of it is starting to connect. So in this video, I'm not just talking about why space is hot. I'm talking about whether this is just a short-term hype trade or the start of a much bigger move. Here's the bottom line. Space is no longer just a dream trade. It's turning into an order-driven trade, and that changes everything. A few years ago, you could slap Moon, Mars, or satellite internet on a stock and money would chase it, but that game is changing fast. Now, the market wants proof, real contracts, real execution, and a revenue curve you can actually believe in over the next 2 to 3 years. That's why the names getting real attention right now are not just the loudest storytellers. They're the ones with actual catalysts, actual backlog, and a real path to scaling. So no, the market is not asking whether space is cool. It's asking which stocks are about to get repriced first as SpaceX pulls the whole sector higher. Now here's the real catalyst you cannot ignore, the SpaceX IPO. If this thing actually happens, it does not just change space, it resets the entire space sector on Wall Street. A lot of industries stay stuck for one simple reason: no valuation anchor. Without a true market leader trading publicly, everything else gets dumped into the same bucket. Too early, too niche, too volatile, too story-driven. But the second SpaceX hits the public market, that changes fast. Because then big money has to do the work. They have to break this whole sector apart and ask what launch is worth, what satellite broadband is worth, what defense exposure is worth, what lunar logistics is worth, what deep space infrastructure is worth, and that repricing never stops at the leader. It spreads across the whole chain. That's why when SpaceX headlines hit, names like LUNR, RKLB, and ASTS instantly come back into focus. The market is not asking which one becomes the next SpaceX. It's asking if the leader is worth that much, which public names are still mispriced. And here's the bigger shift. The market is no longer looking at space like old school manufacturing. It's starting to treat it like next-gen infrastructure. Part cloud, part defense asset, part long-duration AI infrastructure trade, and that is a completely different valuation framework. So from here, this trade is not just about who makes money this year or next year. It's about who owns a real position in the next 10 years, who controls access, who becomes impossible to ignore once this ecosystem matures. That's why the biggest takeaway from a SpaceX IPO is not go buy space. It's this: you should be asking which public stocks get traded first as the shadow winners when SpaceX pulls the entire space complex higher. If you want the stock acting like the emotional leader of this move, it's probably LUNR, and the reason is simple. It has the one catalyst the market reacts to immediately. A real NASA contract that is a completely different story from pure vision and hype. That roughly $180 million Lunar South Pole Award tells you Intuitive Machines is not standing outside pitching the dream anymore. It is already inside the system. And once the market starts believing lunar missions will keep coming, money does not chase the loudest story first. It chases the names that are already on the board. That's what makes LUNR so dangerous to ignore. It is not safe. Like a mature industrial name, but it sits right in the sweet spot the market loves. Traders can chase it short-term, and swing money can still justify it on a bigger re-rating thesis. Short-term traders see exactly what they want to see: breakout potential, expanding volume, and a ticker everyone on the screen is suddenly watching. When a stock starts moving like that, attention becomes fuel, and fuel becomes price. But the bigger point is this: orders force the market to rethink what the company actually is. Once investors stop seeing LUNR as a slide deck story and start seeing a real cycle of win orders, execute, then win more orders, the upside gets a lot bigger. Now, be clear. This is not some sleepy blue chip name. It is volatile. Smaller cap, execution heavy, and any mission level disappointment can hit the stock hard. So you do not treat LUNR like a safe core holding, you treat it like a beta theme leader with real torque. That's why money is paying attention today. Not just because there is news, but because LUNR checks the 3 boxes this market cares about right now. Real orders, high visibility, and serious upside leverage. If LUNR is the fast money name, RKLB is the one institutions can actually build around. That is the real difference. Rocket Lab is not just a momentum trade. It is starting to look like a serious space platform. It is not a one rocket story. It is not a one launch gamble. You have launch, spacecraft systems, defense exposure, and growing platform capability, and once a company starts stacking businesses like that, the market stops treating it like a concept stock and starts treating it like an asset that matters. Because RKLB is much easier to model, and when a stock becomes easier to model, it becomes easier for bigger money to stay involved. This is no longer about whether the company can generate revenue at all. It is about whether it can keep stepping that revenue higher quarter after quarter. That is why today's price action matters. The stock was active, volume was there, and money was clearly leaning into a bigger expectation. This was not casual interest. This looked like positioning, and the setup makes sense. Rocket Lab sits right at the intersection of multiple durable themes. Commercial launch demand, more stable government and defense budgets, and satellite systems that make the business bigger than just launch once, get paid once. That is the key. When a company starts moving from project revenue toward platform revenue, the valuation framework changes. The market usually pays a higher multiple for that because the business starts looking more durable, more scalable, and more important to the ecosystem. That is why in every hot space cycle, the names with the best staying power are usually not the loudest ones. They are the companies that look more like infrastructure, more like backbone, more like something the industry will actually need. So my view is simple. If you want the name in this space that fits institutional taste, carries a stronger midterm setup, and has a real shot at becoming a core leader if this sector levels up, you cannot ignore RKLB. Now, here's the part a lot of people still are not fully seeing. OST's Blue Origin and the satellite internet angle could become the next major leg of this trade. And the reason matters, because this is not just another launch headline. This is 2 big themes starting to merge: heavy lift, launch capacity, and low Earth orbit communications. The market loves that kind of setup. The second 2 separate trades start connecting, money stops looking at one ticker at a time and starts looking at the whole chain. Who provides the launch? Who builds the satellites? Who owns the network? And who actually turns that into revenue? That is why ASTS matters here. The stock is not just reacting to a headline, it is fighting for a spot in the next bigger narrative. And that narrative is simple. If satellite internet becomes real infrastructure, who gets paid first? Because this story is already bigger than just connectivity. Now, you are talking about defense communications, global coverage, edge computing, and data distribution. Put all of that together, and this starts looking a lot less like a niche telecom story, and a lot more like next-gen infrastructure. And once AI demand keeps pushing toward lower latency, wider coverage, and more distributed compute, space-based assets get a lot more valuable. That is why commercial space is no longer just a small side theme. It is turning into a full-stack trade that connects launch, satellites, communications, defense, and AI all at once. So here's the only question that really matters now. Is this just a hot short-term trade? Or is commercial space turning into a real market leader for the next stretch? My view is clear. Short-term, yes, it is already crowded and hot. But mid-term, I think this group is only just starting to get repriced. And I say that because this setup has 4 things you almost never get at the same time. You have a giant headline catalyst that can pull in money from outside the sector. You have real contracts and real industry events backing up the story. You have beta names that can carry momentum. And you also have core names institutions can actually own and model. That combination is what makes this different. This is not just hype floating on air. This is a theme with enough depth to keep money interested after the first spike. That is how a trade stops being noise and starts becoming a real narrative. Now, be smart. The risk is real. This group is going to stay volatile, headline-driven, and brutally honest. One bad launch, one delayed mission, one weak quarter, and these stocks can drop fast. But if you ask me what deserves to stay on your screen after today, commercial space is absolutely on that list. This is not some random side theme anymore. It is turning into a full narrative that big money can come back to again and again. So from here, do not just chase the loudest ticker. Watch who can turn today's excitement into actual orders, actual revenue, and actual execution over the next 2 quarters. Because in the end, the stocks that go the farthest are never just the best storytellers. They are the ones that turn the story into reality first. So by now, you should see it clearly. This is not just another hot rotation trade. The market is starting to make a much bigger bet. Space may no longer be just the edge of imagination. It may be the front line of the next infrastructure re-rating cycle. And from here, the winners are not going to be the companies with the coolest story. They are going to be the ones that win real contracts, execute real missions, and prove they can deliver. That is how a theme stock turns into a real core asset. And if this space trade keeps running, come back and tell me in the comments. We'll break it down together.